Hi there, welcome to part 2 of the video series on finding what it is that you love to do for work. And let's just jump straight into it. And during part 2, I like to break down into the practical tips into the Holy Trinity of love, which in my world is thinking love, speaking love, doing love. But for this particular video series, they're sort of going to be intertwined, quite frankly, because I would really like us to talk through this tool that I used back in, I think it was about February 2020, as to figuring out what I love doing for work, and I would really love to share that with the audience. And so a lot of it will be, this tool will actually touch upon the 3 elements: thinking love, speaking love, and doing love, because of course you will be considering things using this tool. I encourage people to speak about it as well, so feel free to share this with others in your loved who you're very comfortable speaking to about, the ins and outs of your preferences and your interests, be that your partner, spouse, the other family members, mum and dad, your children if you've got any, as well as friends or other loved ones, or even in a colleague. You might want to apply this tool in a working situation to help your fellow workers, employees on their journey. Now, and then doing love, of course. So I thoroughly and sincerely suggest that you don't just ponder about these questions that we're going to be discussing today, just because it can get a little bit overwhelming when you've got too many thoughts in your head. It may feel like there's a lot going on. I genuinely suggest just grab a piece of paper or a notepad, and as you work through a variety of questions, just jot down your thoughts. In a mind map form, in a list form, jot down any symbols that might come to mind, any illustrations, any drawings you might want to carry out to create a bit of a mind map if you wish to. And guess what? The beauty is that it can be purely confidential. Nobody else needs to see what you're doing on that piece of paper. You can, upon completion of this exercise, you can just rip up that paper, throw it in the rubbish bin, or burn it if you feel like doing that. Up to you, right? Nobody needs to see it if you feel like it's such a personal exercise that you just want to keep that to yourself, right? And obviously, if it is something you want to keep personal, then perhaps you can just ignore the speaking love element. You don't need to speak through any of this with anybody else, or you may wish to speak to yourself, or to your higher self, or to anybody else you might believe in, be that your angels, archangels, your ancestors, or any of the ascended masters that you truly believe in, or God, or anything or anybody else. So that's something you may wish to do, which in my world is an act of love in itself when you address those other things. So whether that's through thoughts or prayer or speaking. So let's just jump straight into this tool. So it's broken down into effectively 3 sections to figure out what you love doing for work. And the first section, which I sort of mentioned in part 1, in universal law as to the deeply embedded code within us all that makes us us. And that's figuring out what you used to enjoy doing when you were a child, what kinds of activities you were drawn to, as well as who did you want to be when you grew up. Okay, I'm sure everybody has had that question posed to them, and hopefully you can review and think back to those times when you pondered in the question, who did I want to be when I grew up? And so just looking at some of the answers I had written here down for myself, I genuinely written down, some roles, some things, some professions, or some jobs that I thought I would like to have. And so when you write that down, so for instance, I had examples, a hairdresser. I also had written down a lawyer. I written down, a teacher. And then you ponder on, once you've identified who you wanted to be when you grow up, just consider the next question, which is why? What is it about that job that you think was attractive to you as a child? Examples being, I'll just read out some of the things I wrote. As a hairdresser, there are just really great positive vibes when you go to a hairdressing salon, right? You have lots of smiles and happiness and joy. You help people with their hair. There's the customer service aspect to it. You give joy effectively to individuals. If all goes well during that service that is being conducted on you at the relevant time. Now, the lawyering part was all about assisting other people, solving problems, assisting people through problems, and giving advice. And likewise with the teacher, it was I thoroughly enjoyed the mentoring part, giving advice, listening to somebody, and helping them on their journey. And so, if you've done that exercise, you can actually then step back a little bit and figure out, what are the top 3 things that are perhaps similar, that stand out amongst all the things you have written down. And I'm only giving examples of 3, but your list can keep going and going and going. Write down as many things as you want. And then see if there are any patterns. What is it that as a child you were drawn to doing? What kinds of things really resonated with you or sounded like an attractive thing to do? And once you figure that out, I suggest thinking a little bit about the environment of work, right? Because different jobs, there are different professions out there, and they can be done indoors or outdoors, or a mixture of both, right? It could be in an office, a physical space that's outside of your home, or nowadays we know that we can all work from home. Are you more of a home type person? Do you like being on the road? Do you enjoy driving, for instance? Your vehicle might be your place of work. So have a think about the environment that you may have wanted to be in when you were a child. And, step back a little bit and just, find some patterns. Are there patterns that you can see, or you can draw some conclusions or make some deductions based on everything that you have written down in isolation? See if there's any kind of collective, patterns that emerge from your answers. And the last thing, when on a child, when considering this first section about what is it that I like to do as a child, have a think about whether or not you were drawn to do what you enjoyed or what you thought you would enjoy based on the experience of what your parents or grandparents or people in your family used to do at the relevant time. Did you look up at your mom and your dad and wanted to be like them? Kids do have that tendency, right? That's how kids learn, is that you learn through observing and then repeating whatever it is that the adults are doing in your life. So, have a ponder about that, because there's a reason why we sometimes end up doing whatever it is that our parents or grandparents or people that are closest in our family used to do, just because, their DNA, the embedded code that's within us, there's some repetitions there or some similarities there. Not always, but there could be similarities in the embedded code that we've arrived into this lifetime with, and therefore it has an influence on what we might actually thoroughly enjoy doing for work. And I'm just going to pause there for a second. And we will jump into the second section of this tool very shortly. So the section 2 of this tool that we're discussing is all about your gravitation in terms of the tasks that you enjoy performing, okay, or completing or doing. So what gravitates you? What do you naturally gravitate to as work? And this is now thinking about you as an adult, right? Not a child anymore. First section was all about you being a child. Now we're more thinking about the things that you have done and the things you might perhaps be doing right now. What do you naturally gravitate to? And so think about, write down a list of things that you gravitate to in terms of verbs, right? The doing words. Do you enjoy, I'll just have a look at some things on my list, do you enjoy organizing events, organizing parties, organizing things for your family and friends? You might not be doing that as a career or as a job for money yet, but do you enjoy doing that? Do you like organizing? That's a doing word, right? Do you enjoy communicating or interacting with other people, speaking, talking. That's in doing work. Consulting. You know, do you like advising other people or consulting people to do something, and you just sit back and relax subsequently and see what people might take that advice or they might not take that advice, but you're in that process of giving somebody advice or consulting. Do you enjoy reading books? You know, reading is a word, a doing word. Writing, you might be enjoying doing both. Exercising, you know, do you enjoy playing sports? That's a really great example of, you know, training, playing, going through competitions, and, you know, undertaking, you know, physical activities for your work. Or you might just naturally do that anyway, even if you're not yet making that money out of that kind of process. Do you enjoy practicing mindfulness or other practices of spiritual development, as an example? Do you enjoy, I've got, you know, decks of tarot and other spirit oracle cards here on the table with me. I use them as tools in my life. I don't do, you know, readings per se unless I really have to, you know, for my family or myself. But do you enjoy that? Do you naturally gravitate to things like that? And those are specific examples, but is there anything in your own spiritual development journey that you may have enjoyed doing? Do you like researching? Do you like finding answers? Do you Google a lot? That's a research, right? You know, you're posing questions and you find answers and you scroll through to find the right answer, or, you know, from the most reliable source anyway. Do you, here's something to consider as well. It's not really a doing word, but it's definitely talking about, you know, do you gravitate naturally towards type of work that is commercial in its nature? So you're very much, you know, money driven, for example, or commercially driven. So you like making more money, you know, more money. So financial transactions, investing, perhaps advice in that space, banking, anything to do with, or any other type or nature of business, so long as it's for money and making more money. Do you get, does your spirit get uplifted because you make more money? You know, do you light up if you see more money in your bank account, or you make more money for other people? You know, does it really get your blood flowing when that happens? And that's a good thing if that's what happens to you. At least you can, you know, very clear in your confirmation know that, yeah, actually that really does. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just what keeps you going. It's what drives you. The flip side of that is, do you naturally gravitate towards more work that's more charitable in its nature? That you're not as driven by money, as an example, or commercially, but you enjoy helping other people in a charitable manner. You like, you may donate money yourself or donate your time and effort towards things. You like volunteering a lot. If that's the case, fantastic. You've also got your confirmation that actually I enjoy, you know, those sorts of areas of work or types of work. That's what really, you know, gets me up in the morning. That's what energizes me. So that's perhaps something to consider. Do you find challenges exciting or not? Do you prefer work that is that requires you to think, find innovative ways of doing things, perhaps exploring or discovering some new ways of thinking or doing, or does that scare you and you would prefer to actually just keep on doing repetitive tasks or following instructions, you know, something that's already been done, and you want to keep doing that on and on and on and on, because that familiarity is what energizes you. Familiarity with tasks, familiarity with your work is what gives you that confidence and that comfort to be able to do your work well. And then think about rewards and any other kind of satisfaction and abundance that comes from work. And that's the last kind of element or question you can ponder in this section in terms of gravitating towards work. Naturally, do you gravitate to certain jobs or types of work or tasks because of a great reward? There's high salary involved. You get really high wage rate for it. So money's a big factor. Do you consider other types of rewards? Your service to others, or service to the society, service to your community, as the personal satisfaction and personal blessings that come from you simply undertaking a particular task and knowing deeply in your heart that actually I'm really loving what I'm doing right now, and I don't care how much money I get paid for it. I might not get paid anything at all. I simply enjoy doing this. It energizes me. It's what gets me up in the morning. I just know deep in my heart that that's part of my life purpose, or it just simply feels right at this point in my time. So think about the rewards, and there's financial rewards and there's obviously non-financial rewards. So jot those down, on your piece of paper or on your list or whatever it is that you're doing, in order to actually then be able to step back and reflect on section 2 and have a look. Do you have any patterns there? Are there any things that stand out? Are you being completely honest and frank with yourself? That's the other thing, right? During this whole exercise of all parts, is to figure out and being honest with yourself. And don't think about others or other people's expectations of what you might be interested in, or what you should be doing, or how you should be doing it. Just be honest with yourself. As I said before, nobody needs to see that piece of paper. You can burn it at the end if you want to. It's simply a tool for you to exercise for yourself in order to understand what you love doing for work. Right, and so I might just pause there for a moment before we jump into part 3 of this tool. Welcome back to part 3 of the tool. So we're still, just to clarify, we're part 2 of the video series, application of universal laws and practicing love tips. But because we're doing an exercise today, which is all about using this wonderful tool to figure out, to identify what you love doing for work, we've gone through the first section, which is figuring out some bits and bobs about what you used to do as a child or enjoy doing as a kid. The second part was all about the gravitation. What are you naturally pulled to do? What kinds of tasks? What kind of work? Thinking about the doing words, the verbs. And lastly, it's all about, so we're just into section 3 now of this tool. I do apologize for the fact that this video series is going to be longer than usual, but I think it's a goodie, and hopefully it inspires a lot of you out there on your journey of actually trying to figure out what you enjoy doing for work. So this third section is quite interesting, actually. Some spontaneous answers may arise, okay? But it's actually all about the word envy. Yeah, so synonyms of envy is, jealousy. Now you might think, what? I know, I did think that as well when I was doing my exercise. But it makes sense. So the question is, when you think of other people, be that your family, friends, or loved ones, or your colleagues, or some random people from your past or in the present, and or a person that you might be a stranger, but you know what they do, or you have a very good understanding of what they do, or you think you do anyway. And there's something about it that you're envious or jealous, and you're like, right, I would love to do that, or I would love to be in that environment, or I would like to be very similar to what, how that person is, or what they have, what they don't have. And right, if you can think of those individuals, or one individual in particular in your life, write down what is it about them that you're envious or jealous. Write down a list of things. They can be doing words, verbs as well as nouns. Whatever it is that you are envious or jealous, because, and this is why this section is actually quite important, it gets you to think a little bit about what you are attracted to and what you're currently lacking in your own life. Because if you think about what you might be jealous or envious of, that means that you don't currently have that at this point in time, but you would like to, right? So, and it's a good exercise. It's a brutal one. You have to be honest with yourself, and it might feel a little uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie. But it's a fruitful exercise, and please do trust me, for you to actually write those things down. And as I said, nobody needs to see that piece of paper. You can burn it if you want to. But I sincerely suggest you do think about this question. Who are you envious of and why? Write it down. Is it because somebody, some of the things I've had on my list was somebody has a lot of time for themselves. At this point in time when I was doing this exercise, I felt like I didn't have much time for me. And this was pre me becoming a mum. So time, having enough time was something I was envious of. Time for yourself, time to have adequate me time, or doing activities, non-work related activities that you enjoy, and having time for those. And not just, the minimal, which is giving effect to your chores in your life, and that's it. What else? Oh yeah, so I had family, spending time with family, being around your family members on a more regular basis. Being creative. So in my past, I didn't have the opportunity to be as creative and expression of creativity, be that through photography, through art, painting, writing stories. There's a variety of ways one can be creative. And in fact, I think we all, create love. My channel is all about creating love on a daily basis, right? So we're all creators inherently. And I just didn't feel like I had enough time in my life, or certainly didn't do that, of being creative enough, on a regular basis. Is there any particular individuals that the person you have in mind that you're envious of? Are there any individuals that they work with that you are jealous of? Type of clientele, as an example. Or if it's not individuals, you can think about objects. What is it that they work with? What kind of resources they use in their work that you're just passionate about, and you would love to give that a go. Or what about animals? Some of you might love animals and pets, and you might be envious of people who work with animals for their income or for their work. So, and lastly, most obvious, are you envious of wealthy people, people who have lots and lots of money? So write that down. Be honest with yourself. Nothing wrong with that. Similar to lots of money, having materialistic things. Are you envious of individuals who drive amazing cars, fancy cars, or who travel a lot all around the world, have the ability to do travel on a regular basis? Could it be something to do with responsibility and accountability? Would you prefer to have more accountability and responsibility, and ability to, for instance, come up with or develop strategy, at that executive level, or not? Is that something you just, that's not me? I really don't want any responsibility. In fact, I would like less accountability or responsibility. That might be your answer. Think about stress levels as well, right? Are you comfortable with your stress levels at the moment? Are you envious of people who have less stress or more stress in their life? More stress could result in more adrenaline. You might be more productive as a result. There's no right or wrong answer. You just write down what feels right to you, what you resonate with. And so that's really the exercise, right? So we've gone through 3 sections for this tool: thinking about you as a child, thinking about you as an adult and what you gravitate to in terms of your work. And last section was all about, who you're envious of and what is it about them that really gets you jealous. And I suggest, as a result of this exercise, once you've completed it and finished that, step back and have a look at any kinds of patterns that emerge, right? Because those patterns will give you an indication as to what you actually love doing for work, right? And saying it on a piece of paper, or having some personal insight that will come through to you, is already a step in the right direction, right? Hopefully through this exercise you will become aware, you will become more enlightened as to your inner desires, what your spirit, what your soul might be calling out for, what your heart might be telling you enjoy doing. And if for some reason that doesn't align with what you actually do, well, at least you've taken the first step, which is you become aware of it, right? Because the next step in the journey is considering and figuring out, well, right, what little baby steps can I take now, or from now on, in order to align myself more with what's clearly on this piece of paper, what I wish I had, what I wish I would be doing, right? And that doesn't mean drastic career changes and job changes in the instant. It's all about taking baby steps to incorporate and embed more of what you enjoy doing in your life. Baby steps, one step at a time. But at least you now have the awareness and you're able to take on that next step to actually consider what steps you can take. And subsequently, right, the step after that is actually taking the step, embedding more of what you enjoy doing into your daily life. Hopefully that's been useful, team. Please comment down below with like a heart shape emoji or anything that resonates with you, if that's actually been a helpful exercise, or if you think that has helped you on your journey of figuring out what you love doing for work. I will wrap up the part 2 of this video series just right now in a second, and we will jump straight into part 3. Stay tuned. See you shortly.